All right, quiz tomorrow on 6.1 and 6.2. So law of sines, law of cosines, and the areas for both. You guys will get all the formulas from 6.1 and 6.2 tomorrow. You just have to know when to use what, how to apply them. The quiz is going to be 6 questions, and it'll have word problems. So that's a little bit different because the review doesn't have any, but we've done word problems in WebAssign and in the notes. So if you want to practice word problems, go back to WebAssign in the notes. So I'm going to do like one question of each type. So looking at 1 or 2, which one do you guys want to do? All right, let's do 2. So what should we find first? We're going to find angle C. So we add A and B together, subtract from 180. So what did you get for C? 50. Awesome. Next, what can we find? We can find side C. So we have a corresponding pair of B's. So we have angle B and side B. So we're going to use both of those and law of sines. So 7 over sine of 15 is equal to, since we're finding side C, it'll be C over 50, sine of 50. Cross multiply. So we get C is equal to 7 times sine of 50 over sine of 15. What do we get when we put this in the calculator? 20.7. Yeah. Agree, disagree? Awesome. So 20.7, and then last thing we need to find is A. So how can I find A? Yes. Same way we found C. So I'm going to use the proportion that has the 2 given. So B over angle B. So 7 over sine of 15. And that's going to be equal to A over sine of A. So sine of 115. Cross multiply, we get A is equal to 7 times sine of 115 over sine of 15. And what do we get for side A? 24.5. All right, next, do you want to do 3 or 4? All right, so for 3, it doesn't give us a triangle, so it's helpful to draw the triangle. So we have A, B, C, across from A, across from B, and across from C. So it gives us angle A is 26, angle B is 23, and side A is 49.8. What can I find first? Angle C. How do I find angle C? Add A and B and subtract from 180. So what do we get for angle C? 131. And then what do you want to find next? Side B? We can do that. So I'm going to use my corresponding pair that I have. So angle A and side A. So 49.8 over sine of 26 is equal to, I'm looking for B, so it'll be B over sine of 23. Cross multiply, and then divide. So I would just put this into my calculator, and what do we get for B? 44.4. Agree? Awesome. So B is 44.4, and then last thing we have to do is find C. So what should I do to find C? We can do it the same way we found B. So I'm going to still use my given proportion here, so 49.8 over sine of 26, and then that's equal to C over sine of 131. Cross multiply and divide. So we get C is equal to 49.8 times sine of 131 over sine of 26. We put that into our calculator, and what do we get? 85? 85.7. It's always good to double check that the longest side is opposite the biggest angle. When I was working out the answer key earlier, one of them didn't match up, like the smallest wasn't opposite the smallest. So I went back and had to do the math again because I put it in my calculator wrong. So that happens if you don't have the opposite pairs, like the biggest angle has to be opposite the biggest side. If that doesn't match up, then something went wrong. Let's do 5. So any time that we're only given side-side angle, we might have one triangle, two triangles, or no triangle. So if we get an error, that means we have no triangle, so no would be an error. If we have one triangle, we always have to check for 2. So let's solve for our triangle. Since my triangle is not drawn for me, I can draw it myself. So I have A, which is 35, little a, which is 23. Make this B and this C. So side B is 47. So here I'm given side angle. So I know that I'm going to have to check if I have one triangle, I might have 2. So I'm going to set up my proportion. I have to find B. So I have 35, sine of 35. 23 over sine of 35 is equal to 47 over sine of B. Cross multiply and divide. So this will be sine of B is equal to 47 times sine of 35 over 23. So we put this into our calculator, and then don't forget we have to take the inverse sine of that answer. And what do we get for angle B? We get error. It ends up being like 1 point something here.
1.1720.
1.17, and then sine of that, it tells you error. So since we got an error, then we have no triangle here. So let's take a look at number 1. What should I find first? The other angle. How can I find the other angle? Add them and subtract from 180. So what do we get for angle B? 55 degrees. What can I find next?
Use what you have given.
We can use what we have given. And what am I going to find next? Let's find A first. So A, I'm going to have to use angle A. And what else do I have to use?
7 over sine.
Perfect. So I'm going to use law of sines. I have 7 over sine of 55 is equal to A over sine of 50. Cross multiply and divide. So we have A is equal to 7 times sine of 50 over sine of 55. And what do we get for side A when you put this into the calculator?
5, 5.
What do you get?
I got 6. Oh, wait. Oh, I didn't include that.
So 6.5?
Yeah. Or will it be right? Because I did 2 decimals, so it was around 6.6.
6.6. Everybody agree? Oh, awesome. So then last thing we need to find is C. So same proportion. Since 7 and sine of 55 were given, I'm going to use these two. So 7 over sine of 55 is equal to C over what? Sine of 75. Cross multiply. So 7 times sine of 75 is equal to sine of 55. Put that into your calculator, and what do we get? 8.25. So C is 8.25. So when it says solve the triangle, you have to find all the missing things. So we're missing angle B, side A, and side C. So those are our 3 answers. Any questions there? All right, next one we're going to do is number 4. So again, if I skip one that you guys want to see, it'll be in the video because I already did it with the other class, or I can do it at the end. So number 4 doesn't give us a triangle, so it may help us to draw the triangle. If you don't want to draw, that's totally fine, but I think it kind of helps to be organized to draw the triangle. So we have A, B, C. Opposite of angle A is 91.2, and angle C is 131.6. Obviously, this triangle is not drawn to scale, but it's totally fine. And this is C and B. What can I find first?
C. Oh, wait, angle B.
I can find angle B first. I could also find angle C because I have enough or side C because I have enough information for that. But I could find angle B first. What's angle B? What is it? 37.2. How did you know that? Add the other 2 angles, subtract from 180. Perfect. Next, what can we find? We can find side C. So I'm going to start with my givens. So that was 91.2 over sine of 11.2. And since I'm finding C, I have to use angle C, so it's equal to C over sine of 131.6. Cross multiply and divide. So we get C is equal to 91.2 times sine of 131.6 over sine of 11.2. And we put all of that into our calculator. What do we get? 351.1? Perfect. 351.1. And then lastly, we can find B. So I'm going to use the same proportions of A over sine of A to find side B also. So 91.2 over sine of 11.2 is equal to B over sine of 37.2. Yes? Okay. Cross multiply and divide. So we get B is equal to 91.2 times sine of 37.2 over sine of 11.2. We put this into our calculator. So what do we get for B? $383.9?
Oh,
283.9. Awesome. So just be aware that always, whatever side is opposite your biggest angle is going to be your longest side. The side opposite of your smallest angle is going to be the smallest side, and then the mediums will be opposite of each other too. So if you did the work and your biggest angle is not opposite the longest side, then you probably did the math wrong somewhere. That happened to me when I was filling out the review, and I was like, these don't match up, and it's because I put in my calculator wrong. So you can always double check your work that way. All right, any questions there? Number 5 was no triangle. So this little paragraph here, anytime we see side-side angles given, we could either have no triangle, 1 triangle, or 2. So if we have side, 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 so if I had a triangle here, and it gave me this side, and this angle, so side, side angle, then I know I'm going to have to check for 2 triangles.
Could it be for side, side, side too?
No,
It's just side, side angle?
just side, side angle.
And like, I don't understand, like I was doing...
Only when doing law of sines, you'll have to check for 2 triangles. So here we have a pair opposite. This is opposite of this. So we would do law of sines. We have to check. But it's only going to be like not just for all of law of sines, just when it's side to side angle. That's when we check for 2. All right, let's do 7. So my triangle here, if I draw it, A, B, C. Side opposite A is 19.6. Side opposite B is 18.4. I don't know what C is. Angle B is 28. So what do I have to find first here? Right, so I know that this is A. I'm missing angle A, so I have to find that one first. So I'm going to set up my proportion since I have the corresponding B's. I'm going to use those. So I have 18.4 over sine of 28 is equal to 19.6 over sine of A. Cross multiply and divide, so we get sine of A is equal to 19.6 times sine of 28 over 18.4. So what's the sine of A equal to? What is it? Well, angle A is 30, right? So angle A is 30 degrees. Because we found sine of A was a decimal, and then we had to take the inverse sine of that. So remember, we have to do sine -1 of whatever that number is, and that gives us the angle. All right, how can I find angle C? Add the two angles and subtract from 180. So I have 180 minus 58. So I got 122. So C is 122 degrees. And then how can I find side C? Set up the proportion. So since B's were given to me from the start, I'm going to use that same proportion. So I have 18.4 over sine of 28 is equal to C over sine of 122. Cross multiply and divide. So I get 18.4 times sine of 122 over sine of 28. So what's side C? 33.2. All right, so we definitely have one triangle. We just solved it here. This is our first triangle. Now we need to check and see if we have a second triangle. So I'm going to set up here. I have triangle 1 and triangle 2. What was the angle that was given to us first? Angle B. So angle B was 28 degrees. So that's going to be the same in triangle 2. Angle B, I'll call it angle B prime just to make a different, is 28 degrees. Just a little prime, just like, so different than original angle B. You can put like little superscripts if you want to tell the difference that way, like if you put, or subscripts, so like B1, B2, you can do that too. What was the next thing that we found in triangle 1? Angle A. So angle A was 30 degrees. So what would my angle A in triangle 2 be? 150. How did you find 150? Awesome. We do 180 minus angle A, and that gives us angle A in triangle 2. So it'll be 150. We want to add these two together and subtract from 180. If they're bigger than 180, then we don't have a second triangle. But when we add these two together, we get 178. So it's smaller than 180, so we're going to subtract 180 minus 178, and that gives us 2. So our new angle C is 2 degrees. And then the last thing we have to do is find side C because it's going to be different. We use law of sines again. So I'm going to use the proportion of B's that I have. So side B over sine of 28. So 18.4 over sine of 28 is equal to C over sine of, what's angle C? 2, because I'm using my second triangle, so it's the new angle C. I cross multiply and divide, so I get C is equal to 18.4 times sine of 2 over sine of 28. What do I get when I put this into my calculator?
Point
1.4
4.
or 1.4. So new angle C is new side C is 1.4. So again, if your triangle gives you side angle, so here we had side angle that was given, you have to check. You might have no triangle, you might have one, you might have two. So you always have to check. If these two add up, let's say when we add these two, we get 200. You can't have two angles in a triangle that add up to something bigger than 180. So if it adds up to something bigger, then you don't have a second triangle. All right, do you want to do 9 or 10? So find the area of the triangle having the given measurements, round to the nearest square unit. So here, since it gives us angle A, side B, and side C, which area formula are we going to use? Awesome. Half times BC times sine of A. And that's equal to our area. So plug everything in. We have 1/2 times 15 times 5 times sine of 30. And what do we get? 19. Yep, so it rounds to the nearest square unit, so that's whole number. So 19 what? Inches squared. Don't forget when it's area, you need your units squared. Let's do number 6. All right, so 6. Bless you. So I have A, B, C. Angle B is 114. Side B is 4. Angle A, or side A is 25. So what do I have to find first here? Anybody, what do I have to find first?
Angle A.
Angle A, thank you. So I have 4 over sine of 114 is equal to 25 over sine of A. Because I don't know anything about C, so I can't set up a proportion because I have two unknowns there. So I have to do A because I have side A but not angle A. So cross multiply and divide. I get sine of A is equal to 25 times sine of 114 over 4. What happens when you take the inverse sine of this?
Error.
You get an error. So if I did sine -1 of whatever this was in my calculator, it gave me an error. What does the error mean?
No triangle.
No triangle. Right, so when you put this into your calculator, you said you got 5.7 something?
Yeah.
And then when you do the inverse sine of that to find the angle, it gives you an error.
But I thought you only do the inverse when you get like a 0 point something.
Well, yeah, because you'll get a 0 point something and get an actual number. But if it's anything like greater than 1, it'll give you an error.
No, but I'm saying like because I thought for the inverse.
But what you found is sine of A, so you have to do the inverse to find A.
Right. The app has this block or something.
All right, number 8. Let's draw our triangle first. So I have A, B, C. Angle B is 41. Side A is 4. Side B is 3. So what do I have to find first? I have to find angle A first because I have a corresponding pair of B's, so I'm going to use that. And then I have side A, so I can set up my proportion to find angle A. So I have 3 over sine of 41 is equal to 4 over sine of A. Cross multiply and divide. So we get sine of A is equal to 4 times sine of 41 over 3. Yes.
So you get 0.87 and you get inverse.
So when we put this into our calculator, we get 0.87. Do the inverse, and what do we get for A? 61 degrees. This is 8. How do we find angle C?
You
Add them and subtract from 180. So what do we get for angle C?
78.
78. What's the last thing I need to find here? Side C. So what do I do to find side C?
3 over sine 41 equal to C over
Awesome. So cross multiply and divide. So I get C is equal to 3 times sine of 78 over sine of 41. What do I get when I put that in my calculator?
uh,
4.5.
Why couldn't you solve C first, or you could?
You couldn't because we were given the pair of B's and A, so I didn't have anything about C, so I couldn't set up a proportion because I had 2 unknowns for C. All right, so side C is 4.5. Now this triangle, we were given side angle. So that means we have to check for 2 triangles. So I have triangle 1 and triangle 2. I always start off with my given angle. So Mikey, what was the angle that was given to us?
41.
41. So angle, what is it, A? B. Angle B is 41. In triangle 2, it's going to be the same since that was given. So triangle 2, angle B, I'm going to call it B prime, just to make it different, is equal to 41 also. What was the first angle that we found? Angle A. And what was angle A? 61.
and then like you add that and then subtract from 180, right? Add those two. No?
Just subtract from 180. So it'll be 180 minus 61. So it's 180 minus 61. 119.
Okay, so the first one is you do the angle, and then the second one is you do the angle that you found, and just the angle that you found you subtract from 180.
Right. All right, so then we want to add these 2 together and subtract from 180. So what's 41 plus 119? 160. And then we subtract from 180, and we get 20. So our new angle C is 20 degrees. And then we also have to find our new side C, because it gave us A and B, so those aren't changing, but side C changes. So to find new C, we have to do law of sines.
How do you know if you have more than one triangle again? Because how do you know?
Side angle. So if we have side angle, you have to check. If these 2, the new B and new A, if they added up to something bigger than 180, then we wouldn't have a triangle, because you can't have 2 angles add up to something larger than 180.
Can it be 180 or no?
You can't have an angle that's 0 degrees. So if it's 180 exactly, then no, because there's no room for a third angle.
So you always have to do law of sines for every question?
No.
No?
But if you're doing law of sines, you may have to check for a second triangle. If you're doing law of cosines, if you start doing law of cosines, the next angle you can find, you're doing law of sines. So yes, you're doing law of sines for
You
everyone.
only do law of cosine right when it doesn't give you anything to like.
If it doesn't give you a pair.
Like it just gives you like angle A and then side
Right.
B and side C.
Yes. Jeff?
I still don't get how you have 2 triangles.
All right, so last thing we have to do is find new side C. So we're going to do law of sines. So I'm going to keep the proportion of B's because that was given. Mikey, yes?
What if it's side angle side? Do we still need to find
Nope,
side?
if it's side angle side, you won't have two triangles. Only when it's side angle you will. So I have 5 over, oh no, that's 3. 3 over sine of 41 is equal to C over
No, it's a little bit.
sine of 20. Cross multiply and divide. So this is C prime that we're finding now is 3 times sine of 20 over sine of 41. So what do we get for new C? Awesome, 1.6. So don't forget, if you have two triangles, you have to solve both triangles to find everything. So we have to find new C also. Yes?
Can we do side angle side now? That's all we need to find.
Because we already have B and A here. All right, let's do an area one. So our area formula is,
Are we going to be given the formula?
yes, you're going to be given all the formulas. So 1/2 A times C, so 4 times 7 times sine of B, which is 10. And then we put this into our calculator. So what do we get for the area? Number 10. So the area is 2.4, but it says round to the nearest square unit, so 2 feet squared. So 14 gives me side, side, side. What do I have to find first? Awesome. So when it's side, 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 you have to first find the biggest. So start with the biggest. So we're going to find A first. So law of cosines, to find angle A would be cosine of A is equal to 4 squared plus 6 squared minus 9 squared over 2 times 4 times 6. All right, so then we put this into our calculator. So we get cosine of A is equal to what? So we take the inverse cosine of that, and you got, so we'll just say 127. Yes. Yeah. So angle A is 127 degrees. What do we have to find next? The second angle, but which one? Do we want to find B or C? We want to find C because next we go to the smallest. So step 2, you find the smallest. Sometimes it'll work out where you don't have to start with the biggest and you don't have to then go to the smallest, but sometimes it won't work out. So every single time, if you start with the biggest and then find the smallest, it'll work. It'll be fine. So then we are finding C. We can use law of sines now. So I have 9 over sine of 127 is equal to 4 over sine of C. Cross multiply and divide. So sine of C is equal to 4 times sine of 127 over 9. So what do I get for angle C? 21 degrees. Because we put this into our calculator, and then just like before, we have to do the inverse sine of whatever that is. And that gives us 21 degrees. Sammy. All right, last angle that we have to find. Sammy, how do I find the last angle?
I have another test to take.
So all 3 add up to 180. Add the 2 that we have, subtract from 180. So it'll be 180 minus 147, 148. And what do we get? 32 degrees. So 15, I'm gonna draw the triangle first. So I have A, B, C. Angle A is 109. Side B is 7 and side C is 8. What do I have to find first here? If I'm using law of cosines because I don't have a pair, what do I have to find?
Side
So I have to find side A because I have angle A. So you always find the one opposite first. And then the second one that we find is going to be the smallest. So it's always the second thing that you do, you find the smallest one. And that's for law of cosines. For law of sines, it doesn't matter. So first we find A. Our formula is A squared is equal to, what comes next? B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times cosine of A. So A squared is equal to 7 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 7 times 8 times cosine of 109. Put this into our calculator. Be careful in putting it into the calculator. If you do it all in one step, I would definitely make sure you put parentheses around these.
A is equal to 12.
A is equal to 12.
12 rounded.
12 point what?
12.
Just 12?
Well,
Okay.
it's not just 12, but I'm rounding.
We can say just 12 because it doesn't tell us what's around here.
Is it fine on the quiz if we round and then we now use like sine and stuff? I mean, everything's gonna be off because we rounded as well.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, what do I have to find second? Smallest side. So second thing we do is the smallest. So I'm using law of sines now because I have a corresponding pair. So it's going to be 12 over sine of 109 is equal to 7 over sine of B. Cross multiply and divide. So we get sine of B is equal to 7 times sine of 109 over 12. And what do we get for B? 33 degrees. And then, Sammy, how do I find C?
You got the other two angles.
We have two angles. How do I find the third?
I have no idea.
We add them and subtract from 180. Same way we found the third, the last triangle. So 180 minus 142. That'll give us 38. So 38 degrees. All right, so do you want to do 18 or 19? Let's do 18. So we're using Heron's formula to find the area of the triangle round to the nearest square unit. So Heron's formula uses S. So first we have to find S. So it'll be 16 plus 13 plus 16 over 2. So what do you get for S? 22.5. So then for our actual area, it's the square root of S, so 22.5, times S minus A, so 22.5 minus 16, times 22.5 minus 13, times 22.5 minus 16. So put all of that into our calculator, and what do we get for the area? 95 yards squared. So again, since we're finding area, our unit has to be squared. All right, so I found this one on Google. Oh, I'm not mirroring.
What do you do with practice? Just triangle, bro? Do a lot of science.
Just Google like law of sines if you want to look up practice word problems. Usually, like, if you search, like, images, it'll give you, like, a worksheet or something. Just practice them. Two observers are standing on a shore a half mile apart at points A and B. So we have A and B, and they are a half mile apart. And measure the angle to a sailboat at point C at the same time. So here's our sailboat, C. Angle A is 63. Angle B is 56. Find the distance from each observer to the sailboat. So let's just say we had to find from B to C. So if it just said find the distance from observer B to the sailboat, because C is the sailboat.
Can we just name it as little a so that would be easier?
Yeah, we can name it as little a. What do I have to do to find little a?
Set a proportion.
Do I have?
Find the other angle.
I can find the other angle first because then I'll have a proportion to set up. So how do I find angle C? What do we get when we add them and subtract from 180? 61 degrees. So now I have a proportion because I have angle C and side C. So it'll be 0.5 over sine of 61 is equal to A over sine of 63. Cross multiply, same thing that we would do before. So A is equal to 0.5 times sine of 63 over sine of 61. So I got A is equal to 0.509. This would be miles. And then you would just do the same thing to find little b. So if it asks us to find the area and it gives us side, we have to use Heron's formula. Before we can use Heron's area formula, we have to find S. So S is equal to A plus B plus C divided by 2. So 12 plus B, which is 18, plus 7 divided by 2. So what do we get for S? 22.5 for number 19?
Oh, you're doing 19?
19.
Oh,
37?
37.
It might not. Yeah, but if it gives you side, you have to use Heron's to find the area. You can kind of look at the formulas and see like what information do I have to plug in here.
What formulas and like information are we going to be given?
The ones from the notes, so it'll give you all the formulas from law of sines, the area from law of sines, all the formulas for law of cosines, the Heron's area, it'll give you S. So all the formulas from the notes, it'll give it to you. You just have to know how to apply them. Because it may not tell you law of sines formula, but if it has sine in it, it's law of sines. But you just have to know how to use them. What do we get for the area? 26.3 squared?
Meters squared, sorry.
Oh, so 26, because it says to the nearest square unit, so whole number, 26 meters squared. Anytime it says area, we need our units squared.